Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Deleted. Me, 25 male, with my fiancée, 24 female, feel like she might be too bossy at home? Hello there, I may very well just be making a mountain out of a molehill, hence my asking others' opinions on the matter. First, here's some background on the situation and relationship. We've been together for 4 years, have a child together, and are honestly in a pretty fantastic relationship. No big fights to speak of, just a pretty easygoing, stress-free relationship. I love her to death, but sometimes I feel like she's just bossy. After we had our daughter, I had my schedule at work adjusted to make sure that I would be able to get her from daycare, as our previous work schedules would have made it impossible to get there before they closed. I have also since taken to driving for ride sharing, and I'm in the process of getting a second part-time job to help out more with finances and to make things easier on us. With that being said, when my significant other gets home, I just feel like she gets in this mode where she just doesn't stop asking me to do all these small things back to back to back that she could easily do herself or that are in no way important to do at that moment. For the life of me, I can't think of any recent examples other than when she wanted help sorting through our daughter's clothes. Since she's growing, she has since grown out of her old stuff, but it's still around, in drawers or cubbies, etc. And she wanted to work on that the other day, so she got me to help. My help turned to her standing in one spot as she directed me around the room to the various places all her clothes were. Then had me go through them all and hand her the stuff that would fit her and put the old stuff in a bag. There was lots of, can you grab those from there? Oh, put that one there. Okay, can you go get this or that now? This was something she up and decided she wanted to do on a whim, and now I'm doing all the legwork. There are better examples that have happened, but probably due to a combination of my being tired and it always being the most minuscule, unimportant tasks that I am asked to do randomly, I really can't remember at the moment. Anyway, I guess the main question is, would you consider it bossy if your significant other constantly asked you for your help with things that you think they should be able to do themselves? Well, OP, first of all, I'm impressed. How many hours does your day have? You've got your main job, which you leave at a certain point to go pick up your daughter. I'm assuming you stay with her since you're picking her up. To then later go do some ride sharing for some app, and you're in the process of getting a second job. So that's why I ask OP, how many hours does your day have? Because on top of this, apparently your wife or your fiancé, needs help doing all of these minuscule things. In my opinion, based on all of that, I kind of feel like you're being taken for granted. Now, maybe I'm missing information to say that because I don't know what the household chore thing looks like for you guys. I mean, what do you do? What does she do? Maybe there's a mismatch there and you're just not helping around too much at the house that she makes you do all these things. But regardless, I still get the feeling that you're doing a lot. You're not maybe doing too much inside the house like the cleaning and all that stuff, but you are doing a lot. You've almost got 3 jobs and you get your daughter from daycare every day. So I'd assume you spent between 2 to 3 hours alone with your daughter every day and you're taking care of her during that time. So again, OP, I don't think it's her just being bossy. I think you two need to sit down and have a proper conversation about the load each of you is carrying. And then maybe come up with a proper distribution of labor or things that you guys need to do around the house that helps you both have some time for yourself to unwind and also get everything done and taken care of. I would think that's very important for a relationship because it needs to work as a team. You need to know that your teammate has your back and that you have their back. But in this case, OP, I think you're taking on a lot. And what do you guys think about this situation? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. La Mama Loca says, how much of the housework and childcare do you do? How much of the housework and childcare do you plan and make sure gets done? Google mental load. My guess is that she carries much more of the mental load, so it comes across nagging when she asks you for help or has you participate. You feel like you're doing more, but decision making and planning really is a burden itself and an invisible one. And many of these important tasks only feel unimportant to you because you're not the one who has to make sure they get done. Maybe you guys could better divide things up so that you are truly responsible for more. Then you can handle that the way you want. And OP responds, housework is a pretty close split. I'd say around 60-40 or 70-30 to me. That doesn't sound like a close split. Dishes and cooking, etc. are normally done by me, but when we do a big house clean, we'll split that up pretty evenly. Childcare is more difficult to split percentage-wise. I get off work and pick our daughter up from daycare, and I'm with her until she gets home from work around 6 p.m. I'll often be the one to try and feed her solids, but once mom is home, she takes over the feeding of the liquids. And thank you, this is something that I really hadn't considered, and someone bringing this to my attention is fantastic. This is our first child, if that isn't obvious, lol. So with that comes a lot of new territory and responsibility. She does do a lot, honestly if not all, of the planning side of things, including what she wears to daycare and getting her stuff ready for the next day. Bottles, diapers, etc. And that's something I have not considered the toll that can take on her. It's very likely her having me run around and do all these little things is just her mind running at 100 miles per hour while she's thinking of the next day and she notices stuff that needs to get done now. JJ Cat says, so from your responses here, you sound like a really great guy and I think your fiancé is lucky that you're being so thoughtful and open about this stuff. I just want to add that in addition to taking on more of the planning routine, regularly nightly preparations, etc., you might also want to start trying to see the situation through her eyes to an extent and anticipate some of the requests she might make before she has to ask for them. Prosipione says, people talk about the 5 love languages in this sub a lot. Maybe your wife places a greater importance on gifts of service than you do. Also, as others have said, the planning probably takes a toll on her. Seems like she could be stressed. When was the last time she got a personal day? Maybe a massage or other pampering would help. You sound like a good guy though. Best of luck. Smiley face. Alright, well, the community definitely gave OP a different perspective than I did and what he was thinking, the mental load thing. And even though I agree with their point, I do not agree with any of the things they said to him about what he could be doing more. From what he said, he does most of the housework and the chores, apart from having a job, picking up his daughter from daycare and staying with her until mom gets home at 6 p.m. Then doing also the ride sharing and looking for another part-time job while also cleaning and cooking. Now don't get me wrong, I understand mental load. I've got 3 kids and my wife and I also do planning, both of us do. However, in OP's case, I get the impression that he's carrying most of everything. I don't know about you guys, but I don't think the community was fair to OP. Anyways, OP has given us 2 updates on his whole situation, so let's move on with the first one to see what happened next, but of course before that, here's another one of my playlists for you to enjoy after this video. Now let's move on with that first update. Hello again! Most of the advice I received was to the tune of my fiancé carrying much of the mental load of our relationship and duties. With that in mind, I was excited to see what I could do to be more active in the planning of things to help with that. I'm just going to summarize more or less how that has been going. As I was reading through that post, I was getting so excited, guys and gals. I felt like I had a new perspective on the reasoning behind her behavior, one that would help me better understand and help her, make her life more enjoyable. So, once I got home, I immediately set about cleaning the house. It had been a while since it had received a good cleaning. I rearranged all of our daughter's toys so that we had more open space in the living room. I found a basket from our baby shower to put next to the pack and play to put diapers and wipes in so they weren't just tossed haphazardly next to it. I did the dishes, did 3 to 4 loads of laundry and put them away and cleaned our room. Took the trash out. It felt great. There is no way she can come home and not just be stoked. Well, she walks in as I'm holding our daughter, trying to feed her if memory serves, and says, "Oh, looks nice." And that was it. Now, I don't expect her to break into song and dance and didn't want her to call the Prince of Nigeria and say how amazing of a man I am and how glad she was she never responded to his emails. But I really was hoping I'd get at least a "Wow, thanks so much babe, this looks great." Anyways, I think she still asked me to do something, I can't remember what it was. The rest of the day was just kind of a blur, to be honest. I carried on, and have been carrying on, trying to keep everything as clean as I could, doing dishes, laundry, etc. I've been helping with getting the bag ready for daycare for our daughter too, but it doesn't really seem to be making any difference. Just last night, for example, I was laying in bed to relax or go to sleep, and she called me from the living room to turn the air conditioning on. She was changing our daughter, so naturally it couldn't wait. The AC is in the living room 5 feet from where she was. I don't know, I just wanted to give you an update since there were a few people that were curious about one. Probably not the one you were hoping for, and I'm sorry. Thank you. Additional information from OP's comments. I've always been the one to do the cleaning before our daughter or after. I just went through and did a little extra and reorganized a few things to make it more spacious, was really the extra I put in. I stated I wasn't asking her to sing my praises, simply more than, oh cool, looks nice. I'm really not asking for praise. And I was not putting that tone forward. My goal from the first post was to get her not to feel the need to have to micromanage my time, so to speak, once she's home, by asking me to do tasks every few minutes. For example, she got home around 6:20 last night. Our daughter was asleep until 6:45. Once she woke up, she got her from her crib, breastfed her, and asked if we should try and feed her some solids. I said, yeah. She asked if I'd mind making it, so I did. She then handed her to me to put her in her chair, so I then fed her. During and after I fed her, all my fiancée did was sit on the couch on her phone. She didn't offer to get me anything, to help clean her up, or anything. I cleaned her and her seat and picked her back up to see if she wanted to hold her, since by this point she had been home. She had spent a grand total of 5 minutes with her while feeding her. She didn't want to, so I put her down in her pack and play so I could finish cleaning the kitchen and throwing away some trash or picking up stuff around in the living room. This is a daily routine. I take care of our daughter from the moment I get off work until the moment she goes to bed. My fiancé gets home around 6 to 6:20 and our daughter typically lays down for the night at 8. Sometimes my fiancé will interact with our daughter during that time, and more often than not I'll be the one doing so. Again, most of the perception of myself is due to my self-deprecation, and that's my own bed to sleep in, but I feel like clearing that air. If she shares any of the mental load, it is simply just self-created worry at this point, as I'm the one that pays the bills, takes care of our daughter each day, and I'm the one that is looking for more work to try to make sure ends are continued to be met. So I was displeased with the way the extra lengths I went through to redo the living room, not just clean, I moved furniture and brought new things to make it look nicer, was glossed over. It hurt a little, but that wasn't the goal. The whole point was so that she wouldn't have things to worry about and would stop feeling the need to alleviate the mental load she was carrying by having me carry out small tasks that cropped up in her head. Something she has continued to do and something that has in no way gone down. OP's edit. I had a conversation with my fiancé today, just a healthy heart-to-heart about how each other was feeling lately. We both realized that we haven't been as communicative as we should be, so we are going to start taking breaks together at work. We work for the same company. Something we did back when our schedules were the same, but have since stopped once I took an earlier schedule so we can spend more alone time with one another. Alright OP, now I'm definitely certain that you are being taken for granted. Honestly OP, you need to talk to your fiancé and tell her to get her crap straight and get her head in the game. You're basically doing everything while she just goes to work, sometimes interacts with your daughter, and then sits on the couch on her phone. And yes, she is doing the breastfeeding, but apparently you guys are already transitioning to semi-solids, so breastfeeding is gonna stop in a couple of weeks. Assuming of course that you would also be transitioning to formula during this time. And I also can tell by the tone of your writing OP that you are starting to get frustrated, and if you guys don't talk, resentment's gonna build up, and that's not good for the relationship. Anyways, let's move on to the final update to see what happened next and how the story ends. This has been an ongoing thing for a few weeks, and I wanted to give more or less one last update as things have finally reached some kind of ending. Thanks to my last update, I finally started to come to terms with the fact that I have serious issues with self-deprecating myself. I never give myself enough credit in relationships, professionally, and wherever. I always downplay what I do. I told people how much of the day-to-day I do, and the tune of comments quickly changed to everyone telling me that I was being ridiculous and needed to start asking more of my significant other. It was a hard thing to come to terms with, but they were right. I have a long history of caring more about others' well-being or happiness, and going through, oftentimes, great lengths to ensure it. That became clear upon reflecting. So fast forward to now. As I said in the edit to my last post, my significant other and I had a talk about everything. I told her I needed more help with things at home, since after I get off work, I get no downtime. I wake up early, go to work, pick our daughter from daycare, and would take care of her until she went to bed at night with minimal help from her once she got home much later in the day. Since we had this talk, things have honestly been amazing. I mean, night and day. We've continued taking breaks together every day at work. It's only 15 minutes, but just getting to just sit and talk with her and get some alone time away from anything has honestly been a highlight of my days as of late. We still prepare our daughter's bag for daycare and grandma's together, but have been cooking and cleaning more together. She has been helping more with the baby when she gets home and has been much more understanding of my needing a break if I do ask for it when she gets home. Not sure if I ever touched on it or not in the other posts, but all of this surely had an impact on our romantic life as well, and that has also improved lately. Last night was just amazing. We made the most amazing passionate love that I've ever had in my entire life. I can't even think of anything that comes close. She cried at the end and we just sat there. Straight out of a Nicholas Sparks novel. Not a fan of his books, but seriously, it was indescribably passionate. And I don't know if that would have happened if not for this sub. So thank you, not only for restoring our relationship to a healthy one with an equal share of the day-to-day, but for bringing that spark back into our life that we just haven't been sharing with one another. I ran to the store this morning before she got to work and bought her a rose and a card and her favorite drink, and dropped it on her desk just to keep the romance going from last night. Honestly, I feel like we're back in the first weeks of our relationship again. Thank you so much, r/relationships, really. Thank you. Well, OP, it sounds like a positive and happy update. I mean, you certainly are very happy right now, so good for you. Hopefully it is a permanent thing. If not, then you'll need to have another conversation. In the meantime, OP, here's wishing you the best. Take care and thank you so much for sharing. Now, how about we finish this video with a mood booster post? This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user 4dimensional butts. Only my hospitalized boss can't approve my raise? Fine, I'll speak to him, and it's gonna cost you $27,000. A few jobs ago, I worked for a huge corporation as a software developer. After a few years there, I became project lead and successfully completed many projects that would net the company hundreds of thousands. One year in February, we started a project with 8 people. A few weeks into the project, I was basically doing all the work by myself because the rest of the people were fired or quit the job. What followed was 60+ hours of work a week for 9 months straight. I was still naive and thought that this would lead to a big raise in the upcoming performance review. Literally 4 days before the performance review, my boss, Bob, had a medical emergency and had to be hospitalized for a long time. So I scrambled desperately trying to find somebody who could give me a well-deserved raise. Eventually, my boss's boss got back to me and told me that there was nothing they could do for me right now because Bob had to approve that raise. I'd either have to visit him in the hospital or wait until he gets back. What they obviously left out was the window of getting a raise would pass by the time Bob would get back to work. A very convenient way for them to screw me over. What the company didn't know was that I knew Boss from university. He's nearly 20 years older than me and decided to get his master's degree when he was in his 40s. We had quite a few classes together and became friends. Well, as much as you can be friends with a guy that has a wife, 4 kids, and a crazy work schedule. So, of course, I visited Bob in the hospital. He was mostly fine, but had to stay for quite a few weeks for some surgeries. We spoke about the company for a while and he told me he's going to quit soon. I told him that I was thinking about doing the same if I didn't get a big raise. He said that we could try a big raise, but he's only allowed to give me X percentage each year, and anything above that usually gets automatically shut down by the higher-ups. Then he pondered for a while and eventually started laughing before shouting out, "Of course, the bonuses!" We sometimes got a smallish bonus for a big successful project, the equivalent of a slap in the face in paycheck form when you consider how much the company earned versus what you got from it. Remember how the project was for 8 people? It was still set up for 8 people and billed as such to the customer, despite me doing all the work. Bob picked up the phone, called his secretary, and told them to file my performance review in a way that I get all 8 bonuses. It was roughly $2,500 to $4,000 per person, so $27,000 in total. Way more than I'd ever get out of a raise in the following years. A few weeks went by and I thought for sure I was going to get an angry call from one of the higher-ups or the finances department at some point. But nope. The year ended and I got a big fat bonus. I handed in my resignation letter shortly after. Bob fully recovered and also left the company a few months after me. Alright, Bob, he's a real one, OP. He really had your back there. Thank you for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.